Hey everybody, welcome to Workforce Gaming. I'm Brad, here with Doug.
Hey.
So I had Game Pass on like a free 3-month thing, and it was about to run out, and I was like, man, I need to play one more game. And I flipped through the list, and I went, you know what game I've almost bought for $5 like a dozen times in the last 2 years? Mirror's Edge Catalyst. Let's try Mirror's Edge Catalyst.
I think you sent me this. You're like, Doug, I'm playing Mirror's Edge. I was like, good luck, because I played this and was not a fan.
Well, I think because you played it, I think 5 years ago, like when it first came out, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think you're actually probably the reason I never played this, because I love the first Mirror's Edge. The first Mirror's Edge is fantastic.
Yeah, it is a good. Oh, I love the first Mirror's Edge. I'm very excited to talk about Mirror's Edge. I love Mirror's Edge.
Yeah,
one.
And then I think because we were both on that same page, we're both like, that game's so good. And then you were like, I don't know why I didn't play this right away, but you're like, oh, I just played Mirror's Edge Catalyst and it sucks. And I was like, well, okay, never mind.
Yeah.
But so I don't want to talk too much long about this game because it is 5 years old, and I just want to talk about Mirror's Edge in general. But just really quick with Mirror's Edge Catalyst, the game is still stupid fun. Like, there's just something genuinely fun about running through these environments, jumping off of giant stuff, swinging around, running fast. Like, the general concept of this game is so good. And my first thought as I was playing was like, I should just go back and play the first one so this is actually good. Because I think there's so much there in this game that nobody else really does, especially not in first person. You see so many infinite runners. You see so many side-scrolling things like this. Ghost Runner, I know, came out recently. That's the only other one that I could come up with that kind of had that same vibe to it. But that one even is a little bit more heavy on combat.
Oh yeah, just a game that's just running. I do think that Mirror's Edge like really influenced a lot of like first person shooters in the last like 10 years though. With like Titanfall is like an easy one to point to, but there's a lot of wall running now in games.
Yeah. And again, I don't want to get into why this game isn't that great too much, but the final level of this game is kind of where I want to focus on. And I'm not going to get into spoilers because honestly, I couldn't really tell you much about the story other than corporations are bad and runners are good.
Sure.
Because that's about the story and there's some family drama in there too. Anyway, the final level though, so basically the game, you run through this city. And I think this is kind of the first the issue with the first Mirror's Edge 2 is it's a lot of white and red. And it's just kind of this...
With the first Mirror's Edge or Mirror's Edge?
Both.
Or which one?
Both.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Both of them are just a lot of just bright whites, reds for where you need to go, some other kind of cool colors thrown around. And after a couple hours, you kind of have seen everything.
Yeah, sure.
And despite the fact that you're having fun with the gameplay, like, you're just seeing the same thing. Like, Mirror's Edge Catalyst specifically, because that's one I played recently, I feel like you go rooftops, construction building, indoor, rooftops, construction building, indoors, for, like, the whole thing. But when you get to the final level, it takes you out of the city to, like, this big, giant, crazy skyscraper. And, like...
Oh, that's cool.
There's, like, one part where it's got, like, giant wind turbines in it, and you've got to, like, use your grappling hook, and you're flipping across this giant wind turbine that's flinging you up the building. It starts adding in things, because a lot of the game is just either run to here, figure out the best route, or run to here with some really bad combat in the middle. This one all of a sudden starts throwing like environmental things to you. There's one part where you're running across this glass and like the glass doesn't quite support your weight. So you have to like jump across the glass. You have to wall run a couple parts because the glass starts cracking and it does like all this kind of stuff. There's one where you're climbing an elevator shaft and parts of the building are falling on you because you have to kind of pop back and forth around these poles and jump around that a little bit. And it gets into some of these environmental challenges, puzzles that the game doesn't really throw at you until the last 30 minutes.
Oh, weird.
And the whole time it's like, this is the game right here. Like, this is so much fun. You're taking me out of this city because the city is good and you do some fun things. And then again, I think that's why that's the look of Mirror's Edge. When you picture Mirror's Edge, you instantly picture that white reds running. But it's so cool. I mean, there's trees in this area, so you swing onto a couple of parts where there's trees and you're going through waterfalls. Really cool. Like, it's like the most, if I said science fiction skyscraper, that's what you're climbing. Yeah. And everybody, I think, has the generic picture of what I'm thinking. But it just made me realize, like, Mirror's Edge is so cool. I want more of it.
I totally agree with you. I think it's like a franchise that I think it still has a lot of potential and kind of what you're saying there. Because I played Catalyst. I think I stopped playing it because I think the open world stuff to me just got like, there was cool individual levels, but I just didn't like the open world stuff that was in between the cool levels.
Yeah, skipped all that.
Fast travel probably the way to play it.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe the way to play it. But I think as much as I want it, I just think it totally blew its chance with Catalyst, right? Like, there's just no way it's coming back. Like, there's just they spent money on Catalyst. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's the one thing I do remember about Catalyst. I was like, oh, they gave Mirror's Edge a budget and a second chance,
Yeah.
and then it just like didn't work out.
Yeah, and I don't know whose decision was to go this way. And I think part of the reason why I came back to this is because I think you're seeing so many of those EA franchises of this time period getting their love now.
Oh, that's fair.
You get the Mass Effect Legendary Edition where it's like, okay, we're going to do some service to Mass Effect. We're going to make these games the best version of these games. Okay, like, you want Dead Space? We're bringing it back. And it's like, but Mirror's Edge, guys. Like, Dead Space is cool, but let's be honest, there's a ton of, like, horror games out there. Like, not like we're treading new ground with Dead Space at this point, but, like, Mirror's Edge does so many unique things. That was where my mind went to. It's like, if we're going to go back 10, 15 years and go back to these EA franchises that they kind of left in the dust, because I think the same thing kind of happened with Mass Effect, Dead Space, and Mirror's Edge, where it was like, Dead Space 1 and 2 are incredible. Dead Space 3, bleh. Mass Effect 1 and 2, incredible. Mass Effect 3, like, ending controversy, just kind of compared to the other two. Mirror's Edge, then Catalyst, this is like a huge drop-off. So it's like, if those games are getting their shot, like, it's time for Mirror's Edge's shot.
I think what happened, from what I understand, that was the EA originals, because I think Brutal Legend also came at that same time, and I think that was just before they figured out how to make money on FIFA, like with the Ultimate Team stuff. And they're like, why would we ever make it?
That was right before Ultimate Team kind of came into being a thing.
Yeah. It's like, why would we ever do anything other than FIFA ever again, sort of thing. And I can see, like, but it is interesting though how they're kind of bringing some of those back. I do think it was interesting because you brought up Dead Space, and I might as well bring it up here since we're talking about it. I just thought, like, when they said, "Ooh, a next gen Dead Space," I was like, cool. I liked Dead Space. I don't see what next gen is going to do to help Dead Space that much. Like, I just see Dead Space, like a new Dead Space with next gen is just a better looking Dead Space to me. Like,
it's Resident Evil Village.
Sure,
it's the same. It's the same thing where it's like, it's great. I love Resident Evil Village. The game's great. Played it like twice the first week it came out. We just run through it over and over again. It's so good. But it's one of those things where, like, looking at this, like, there's not much that couldn't have happened on PS4 in this.
Yeah, or it's just like, or that's not even said in other games.
Exactly.
It seems like Mirror's Edge though, it just hasn't, this stuff that it was doing just hasn't been done elsewhere. Mm-hmm. So I always think that's the thing, like when it comes to like remakes and that sort of thing. It's like, pick a franchise that hasn't finished saying what it wanted to say.
Yeah.
Like, I think even like Resident Evil 2 remake, I think the original Resident Evil 2 was trying to do stuff that it just couldn't do with the technology at the time. Yes. Resident Evil 2 remake did that with the technology, and I always think that those are the best remakes to me. Same thing with Final Fantasy VII remake. It's saying something new, or basically saying what it was said back then better with, like, you know, let's make this world more full. I think Mirror's Edge could, like, definitely benefit from that, especially like those mechanics were really good and smooth, but like, could you, like, just even playing the new Ratchet, like how smooth that game was, even compared to new Ratchet games, but just like a silky smooth Mirror's Edge would just be, so amazing.
That was literally the next thing my mind was going to go to, is like, if you think about how movement works in Ratchet and like the way you're jumping between like dimensions and planets and everything, like, if you could do that with Mirror's Edge somehow, and just like the transition to like densely populated city street to densely populated building to all these different things, to like, again, if you throw in some more of that platforming element to just a building actually crumbling around you as you're doing this, there's so many cool things you could do with the Mirror's Edge concept that I think Series X and PS5 like could really take this series and do, like you were saying, what was originally intended with Mirror's Edge, which was to give you this amazing sense of speed and running through these cool cities. Even something like Spider-Man, is so cool, like swinging through in Miles Morales, where you see all these people doing different things, interacting in the cities. Now, if you're on the ground level running through this, like, it just, the potential of Mirror's Edge, I think, is insane right now. Yeah. And I have zero faith that we're ever going to see a third Mirror's Edge game. But
it's kind of funny, because I think the one thing, like, with like the scope of those things, I think what they did with Cal, it's like, oh, let's make it open world. It's like, I don't even need an open world version of this. Just give me like a tight level. Give me a tight level with ray tracing and whatever the fuck you want to throw at it, and like buildings crumbling, like you're saying. It's like that's. I think the thing is like, well, we would never do a next gen Mirror's Edge because it's going to cost too much. Like, yeah, but we don't want. Just give us the individual levels. Like, we're totally fine with that sort of thing.
Small budget. Like, it does just make it look crazy. Give me some cool things with the DualSense. Like, That's what I want right now. Because at one point my thought went to like, this could be cool VR. It's like, no. This would make me sick in VR. This would make everybody sick in VR. Not the way to go. You could do some really cool stuff with this. And I think, again, I don't think you need to go all out like and go, okay, we need 3 studios on this. We need to spend the biggest budget. Like, make it a short, cool 3-hour experience thing. Like you're saying, like tight levels. Don't give me a big open world. Like, that's where this series is at its best, is where you've got just a nice, tight 20-minute level. Like, I know that's not the way that most people and companies think at this point because it's open world, bigger, better. No, like, you do some really cool, tight 20-minute levels with this, it'd be insane.
Yeah, it's always kind of like, I'm thinking like when you go back to old games and there's just like a mechanic that you're like, why isn't they just like did this one time and then never touched it again. I feel like a lot like going back to PS1 and PS2 games or something stuff like that. It's like, this is such a cool mechanic that is not great right at this moment because it feels outdated, but it's like, boy, could you do a lot of cool things with this mechanic, and they just never touched it again. I do wonder, I'm hoping that Dead Space kind of does that, but I feel like I'm wondering if Dead Space is just going to be like more Dead Space as opposed to like, what else can we bring back from the vault kind of thing?
I mean, the Dead Space thing is the cutting off the limbs, which it's like, okay, like, we've seen that. People do that now.
Yeah,
that's fairly. We
had 3,
fairly popular.
Yeah, we had like 3 games of it. It's like I Dead Space is cool. I was like, I just don't. But there's just like, it does feel like Mirror's Edge has a lot left unsaid.
I think that's the thing. I think that's the thing playing through Catalyst recently is just like, this feels so unique. It feels like there's so much cool here that could still happen. It's still fun. Like, the base game is still a ton of fun. Let's just push it to the next level with something cool in next gen.
Yeah.
Anyway, we are Workforce Gaming. You can follow We'll see. Anyway, we are Workforce Gaming. You can subscribe to us wherever you're listening. Follow us on Twitter at Workforce Gaming, and we will see you later.
Bye.